welcome back, one and all, not just to another edition of the Say What You Like Sports Podcast, but another season of NFL action. Welcome to the 2019 NFL season, man. I got my co-host Eric Hernandez in the house. Say what's up to the people.
What's up?
We're going to do this thing up for week one, coming at you, the Say What You Like weekly NFL podcast, where we're just going to do our thing, you know, talking about what all the latest going-ons in the NFL, hottest topics, some of the funniest topics, whatever really tickles our fancy, man. We're going to talk about it here in the NFL. We're going to have a separate podcast known as the Red and Blue Rivalry Podcast that will be set up primarily to talk about Cowboys and 49ers. So check that out. We'll be releasing that soon. But for now, man, we got to kick off this weekly podcast. And you know what? I hope our podcast gets off to a better start than AB in Oakland.
Yeah, at this point, like the over-under is like a game that he plays for the Raiders. I mean, this is a mess.
I mean, I think AB has just been an issue for the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last couple of years, but we all didn't want to see it. All we wanted to see was the great talent that he was and that he still is, but just the headache that goes into it. And you have to imagine a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, just with the name that is the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Rooneys, Tomlin. They don't just hire and fire coaches over there.
No.
You know, that front office is strong. You have to imagine how much work went into AB because he was homegrown. And just to see how fast this has blown up in the Raiders' face tells you how bad it probably was, even in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems weird that, like, I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Rooneys have had three coaches since, like, my dad was a kid, okay? Literally,
right.
We go back to, like, the late 60s, early 70s when he came about, and they've only had three coaches. And when you look at, like, it just felt like the media and the Twitter people and everybody that wants to be cool and we want to be cool, they sided with Antonio Brown because Big Ben's an a-hole and Mike Tomlin's boring and he can't beat Bill Belichick. And then, you know, you turn around and less than a year later, I mean, they look right. They look vindicated. And, like,
They're
I thought,
laughing right now in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. And I thought, like, as a Niners fan, I did want him because I thought I'd get a year out of him. I mean, he is literally making T.O. and Randy Moss look like Larry Fitzgerald.
Like choir boys.
Yes. They at least gave you 1 year.
They're not even going to get a game out of him.
Yeah,
That's the way it's looking.
T.O. gave both the Cowboys and the Eagles at least a year.
1 season. Right.
You know, Randy gave the New England a great season. He actually gave him 2. It's just he had Matt Castle the second time around.
Yeah.
But when you look at how bad Antonio Brown has been, he hasn't suited up once for them.
Yeah, dude. When your own team want to hate, but there's no stopping me now. Devil is a lie. Everyone got to pay this year, so we clear.
Is that English?
No.
No, right? Kind of wizard.
Brownism.
Yeah. What kind of wizard spell is that, dude?
And that's what he puts on his, Instagram?
Yes.
You know, and just calls out the Raiders organization, calls out Mike Mayock. I think he's just making a sham out of the whole Raiders organization by doing that. It's wrong. And he's done it before. He did it to Tomlin, putting him live in the locker room. So no. He has no regard for the organizations that pay him.
Yeah. And I mean, I think I should have known, like, and I thought they'd get a season in because I figured he was going to do that to a Super Bowl champion quarterback and head coach like Tomlin and Big Ben. Of course he'd do it to, you know, John Gruden, who hasn't done anything in a decade, and Derek Carr, who hasn't proven anything, you know? But to see, like, from the air balloon to the frostbite feet to the helmet incident to now posting this and getting into a fight with, he wanted to swing on his GM.
Mayock.
Like, he wanted to, and people are defending him.
That's the part I don't get, man. I'm on Twitter, and people are like, and this is the reason that they're on AB's side, because Mayock's ego is too big. Can you fucking believe that?
No, that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Here's the best. Because now on Twitter, like, you have some 49er fans that said, I take him up on an offer. What? And this is their reaction. Well, what's wrong? He doesn't beat his wife. He doesn't get drunk. He's not on drugs. I go, okay, so we're making the most basic human being standards. Like, oh, you just have to be those. Right. No, that's not an excuse to grab somebody just because he's not. Like, that's basic.
Right.
You shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
That doesn't count for you. That's not a plus. That's just basic.
So that you as a citizen of the United States of America can keep your freedom. Don't do those things.
Don't do those things.
But
don't
he's
be
trying to be an Oakland Raider or at least an NFL football player.
And he's fighting. Yeah, and I just don't think he wants to do it anymore. I really don't. I think he looks at it like, you know what? I got my money. And now that he realizes they're not going to just let him do what he wants. Tomlin let him do what he wants. You know, Gruden and Mayock aren't. And I give Gruden and Mayock that. Like, no.
I give Mayock props.
Yeah.
Major props for doing this. I'd be doing the same thing, and I don't care what any of the AB apologists have to say out there. Go ahead and hit the dislike button. Go ahead.
You're
that
crazy.
tells me more about you than me.
Yeah, like there's no way. And I think for me, I will side with the player more times than not. But there's something like common sense and decency. It's like
that AB just don't have.
No, man, no. And he's not going to play for them. I really think that, you know, when I look at that,
try to recoup that guaranteed money.
That's $30 million.
$30 million. AB, what was he fined? 37, 40,000?
Yeah, it was like 44.
And he's gonna risk that. He's gonna risk $30 million for that.
He just doesn't think. He does without thinking.
Yeah.
That's what gets him in trouble. No, there's no, you know, I think we've all done it where it's like you say something or you type something and you give it a second. Like, do I really want to send this? And no, you know, but he just does.
Yeah. And then Drew Rosenhaus was out there trying to put out the fire saying that he believes they can work this out between Oakland and AB. And you know what? I think Mayock's tried to kind of assume the role of the bad cop, and Gruden's trying to assume the role of the good cop. But you know what? There's going to come a time that in that locker room, if you were Derek Carr, if you're a player on that Raiders team, you're going to be, I think I'd be keeping a close eye on what they do with AB. Because if you let him get away with it in year one without playing a game, without shedding one drop of sweat for this team, I'm going to have an issue with that.
Oh,
that
my
means
God.
I can do it too, right?
Yeah. And I just look at it like you just disrespected the GM. Like, who does that? Especially when you're there, they just paid you. And it's like, I understand you may be upset they fined you. Then handle it like a man. Like, when any walk of life in any job, and yeah, I know the NFL is different. To a degree, yes, the NFL is different. There's different standards for them because of the way they play. But at the same time, if you have a problem with somebody, you just go up and tell them. If I have a problem with my boss and I get hung out to dry, I'll go tell my boss in private, hey, I don't appreciate that.
Right.
Like, and I think you should be able to do that man to man. If AB would have went up to like Mayock and said, hey, I don't appreciate this letter. Can we do something about it? You know, I tried, you know, this is what the issue is. At least he told him man to man, but to post that, like, you're already against your team. Like, you were against the Steelers. Now you're against the Raiders. You know, at this point, I think Bill Belichick's probably salivating. Like, I can offer them a 7th round pick and watch him come in here and he'll do it right and they'll go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean,
he's done it once.
That would be probably the craziest ending to this story.
Yes.
Somehow he ends up.
That's how you end NFL 100, the 100 season. It starts with
way.
Antonio Brown and it ends with Antonio Brown, Super Bowl MVP for the New England Patriots.
That's a great way. So, you know what? I'm kind of sick of talking about AB. It will be fun to see how it goes into week one. You know,
yeah,
it
week
looks like
one.
he's not playing, but
week
I'm
one.
sure we'll be hitting this topic again next week, seeing what the next
saga
chapter
is
in this saga. But I want to talk a little bit about on the field. Well, before we do that, let's talk a little bit about some of these trades, some of these acquisitions. Now, Houston, they've been doing some wheeling and dealing out there, man. Some of those trades, how do you think that's going to help shape the landscape in the NFL for 2019, particularly for Houston?
Oh, man, I don't. It's weird because I feel like Bill O'Brien, the coach, is trying to get Bill O'Brien, the GM, fired.
Yeah.
Because what I don't understand is you gave up 2 1s and a 2, right, for Laramie Tunsil.
Yeah, but they need that. They
could have easily. And so how about instead do your draft work, do your scouting work, and trade a pick above before the Eagles get it for you?
Have another year.
No. I'm talking about last year's draft, the one that just came up right now, where the Eagles came in front of them and took the guy they wanted, their left tackle.
Right.
I think it was Dillard. Andre Dillard.
Right.
Like, how did you not know they were gonna do that? You know, like that's to me, that's you didn't cover your own ass, so that Philly was like, oh, we know they need them. They're not. You probably would have. The Texans probably could have traded a 4th round pick to move up 2 spots.
Yeah, now it's costing them more.
And it's cost them 2. So, and I do agree because you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract and he's great and you want to make sure he's protected. But you've basically said this is our year.
It's going to have to be, especially with Andrew Luck retiring.
Yeah.
But, that's not the only move they made. They traded for Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
so they need running back help now.
And the most ridiculous one is they traded Jadeveon Clowney for like a 3rd-round pick and some peanuts. I think we're starting backup linebackers.
Yeah.
For the Texans.
I guess you just can't pay 2 great pass rushers. They're paying a lot of money already for J.J. Watt.
I don't think Clowney's as good as people say, but I still think he's okay. Like, I wouldn't hate having Jadeveon Clowney on my team if I didn't have a pass rusher. Like, for the Seahawks, it makes sense for the Seahawks because they don't have another edge rusher. So, but I think that they've said that, he's kind of lived off that one play against Michigan when he was part of South Carolina, feels like for like 10 years now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that wasn't even his last year in college.
No.
He took a year off after that hit.
Yeah, just kind of, he was on the field, but yeah, not really.
Yeah. It's just that I feel like Houston really didn't get enough back.
No.
For Clowney.
You couldn't get a 2nd-round pick for Clowney?
Mingo, right? They
yeah.
got that in return and the 3rd-round pick?
Yeah. And I just think you can't, see, that's the thing is that their defense to get hit, but I figure, okay, they got Kenny Stills. They got Nuke Hopkins. They now have a premier left tackle. I think
they picked up a 4th-round pick, too.
Yeah. So they're going to have to hope that Watson and that offense can carry them because that defense, I think, is going to take a step back.
But here's the time to do it because Indianapolis is taking a huge step back.
This is when you do it.
Yeah, right. And at the same time, Jacksonville's got to show us they can get back to where they were a year ago.
That division's wide open.
So, hey, you know what? He put the money down. It's time to roll the dice.
Yeah.
And I think they did that. And that's why I'm saying they're wheeling and dealing.
Oh, yeah.
Texas style.
They're not 4th anymore in my power rankings.
Now, some of these trades, we got to talk about the other side. The Miami Dolphins. You talked about Tunsil going from Miami over to Houston. And it's just, man, my boy Rosen. I'm a big UCLA fan. I really believe that Josh Rosen was the most talented quarterback in that draft. I do believe that. I just do. And because what I seen him do as a true freshman was amazing. But I do know he has an Achilles heel, and it's the same Achilles heel every single quarterback has, and that's pressure. If you cannot protect your quarterback, they're done. And what are you doing, Miami? What are you doing? I feel like they're tanking for Tua. And you know what? Who's that going to hurt next year? Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, even you, as a USC fan, you can't help but feel bad for this guy, right?
I do. I do because I'm like, I don't know. It just feels like if you want the number 1 pick, you go get Josh Rosen.
Yeah,
for real. And they're tanking for Tua. But here's the thing that I just it just didn't make sense then is like, why are you giving away a premier left tackle if your job is to build around the team? And if you're going to tank, you'll get the number 1 pick. Trust me, Laramie Tunsil wasn't going to stop you from getting the number 1 pick, but yeah, Josh Rosen now doesn't have an offensive line, and if I was him, I mean, it's got to be frustrating because all he wants is a shot, and it feels like anywhere he goes, he can't get a shot,
It's not that he can't get a shot. It's that he can't get a fair shot.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Look what you've done. You've traded away your most talented players this offseason in Miami. And then, yes, everybody's saying, well, Rosen's going to get his shot. Give it 4 games and Fitzmagic will be over, and it'll be the Josh Rosen show. Yeah, but Josh Rosen and what supporting cast?
They gave away Kenny Stills, too.
Yes, Kenny Stills is gone. Laramie Tunsil is gone.
And
they traded away even to the Cowboys. He's suspended. I'm drawing a blank.
It's not Quinn, is it?
Yeah, Quinn.
Robert Quinn.
Yeah, they traded away Robert Quinn. I mean, anybody that made any kind of money, any kind of veteran that was a quality veteran is off that roster. What's this guy supposed to do? And I just feel bad because I seen what happened to him at UCLA. They didn't protect him. And it was all bad towards the end. And he still put up some great numbers, but it was just he could never live up to the potential that I seen.
I think
as a true freshman.
Man, I think if the season goes the way it does, I think if you're Green Bay and you want to have someone to kind of back up Aaron, I mean, he's pretty much I'm not comparing him to, but that attitude that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. They both have it. They both think they're smarter than their coaches, And so, if you're Green Bay and you want to back up, man, Rosen would probably be a pretty great backup and study under Aaron Rodgers for a couple years. Or if you're the Indianapolis Colts or if you're the LA Chargers.
That's what I'd be thinking. If
yeah.
I'm the Chargers,
Colts. And especially because I think you can probably get them if they start to really be bad and they really do tank, then they're tanking for draft picks, right?
Right.
And if I toss them 4th round pick or 3rd round pick for Josh Rosen, you don't think they'll take that for next year's draft? They want picks. If their goal is to get Tua, then they'll take as many picks as they want because they have to not just get Tua. Now they have to get a left tackle. They have to get a wide receiver. They still need a pass rusher. They're going to need a lot of to resurface.
I just feel like they're going to leave Rosen out there to dry at the end of the season.
And that narrative's going to keep growing.
That narrative's going to grow. He's going to be worthless. And then, if they have the number 1 pick, they're going to grab Tua and then bye-bye Rosen.
Yeah.
And that's, it's just sad to see because I do feel like he's talented. And I feel like he really deserves a shot. I mean, he's in a worse situation than any of those quarterbacks.
He went to the worst.
Yeah.
He went to the worst.
Yeah.
Like Baker has,
Baker's got talent around him now.
And then you see the Jets have Bell.
They're trying at least.
Yeah.
They put some players in place.
Everyone has except for, the Cardinals at this time and now the Dolphins.
Yeah, they fired the head coach after a year. I mean, it's just all bad.
It's a mess.
I had to mention that on this podcast. So before we get up on out of here on this podcast, the weekly picks, right? We still got the weekly picks. So let's do our picks for week 1. We will shoot these. We're recording this on a Thursday night football. I took the Green Bay Packers over the Chicago Bears for the Thursday night football game. Who you got in that matchup?
I did as well.
Perfect. Okay, so far so good on that pick.
Mm-hmm.
But let's shift the focus to Sunday.
Yes.
Okay, and here is my upset of the week. I've got Tennessee over the Cleveland Browns.
Really?
Yeah, I need to see. Tennessee, they're a tough team. Say what you will. I don't think they're great, but they're tough, and I want to see Cleveland beat up Tennessee before I say, hey, you know what? They're contenders. So I'm going to pick Tennessee. Until then, I'm going to doubt them.
All right, I got Cleveland. I think that their offensive skill players are just going to be too much for Tennessee, and I just think Baker goes in there. He does what he needs to do. I don't trust the offense to keep Mariota healthy with guys like Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon kind of coming breathing down his neck. So I got Cleveland winning a pretty comfortable game, 7 to 10 points.
All right, so staying in the AFC North, Baltimore heads on down to Miami. Who do you got in that one?
We just talked about the Finns, and we already know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I got Baltimore big. I don't think they're, I just can't see any way.
You don't believe in Fitzmagic?
No. I don't think that Baltimore is going to be anything big. So I don't expect this to be a great game, but I just think between Baltimore's defense and they'll be able to run the ball enough, and I think they walk away another game pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I got Baltimore in that one as well. And then we have Atlanta at Minnesota. Who do you got in that one?
Oh, I got Minnesota. I think, for me, Minnesota at home week 1, I experienced it last year as a 49er fan. They'll be up. They'll be ready. They're bringing in their new offense with, Gary Kubiak. I expect the running. I expect a lot of Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Him to, yeah. So I think that they're at home. They'll get the skull chance going. I got Minnesota winning by 3 points.
I'll keep it simple. Atlanta's getting healthy. I don't know about Julio Jones. I heard it's a question mark. But the defense is healthy, and I will take Matt Ryan over Kirk Cousins any day of the week, so I'm going Atlanta. Then we have Buffalo at the New York Jets.
I think we're the most hated 2 guys in Buffalo.
Yeah.
If you read the YouTube comments.
Yes, on our previews and predictions for the AFC.
And I'm not going to make them any happier because I'm going the New York Jets.
And you know what? I'll follow suit and say the New York Jets. How do you like them apples, Buffalo?
Yeah, that's right. Sam Darnold all day.
Then we have the Washington Redskins at the Philadelphia Eagles. NFC East battle. Who do you got?
I got Philly. Washington's a mess, to be honest with you. And so I got Philly winning. Their front four should be able to dominate that offensive line. And I think Wentz kind of reminds people of what he is.
I love to pick Washington in this game. I think Washington is just as talented as a Philadelphia or a Dallas. Trent Williams is not scheduled to play for week 1. That's a big question mark. That's a big hole. So, I just can't help it. As much as I'd like to pick Washington, I'm going Philly in this one. And then we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Carolina Panthers. Who do you got in that one?
And this is where I got my upset of the week.
Okay.
And I got Carolina beating the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are going cross country. We still don't know what they're going to look like. They're hurting. That Super Bowl hangover is still real. You got Cam at the healthiest he will ever be at this point. You've got that defense and that running game. I just think that's a bit too much for the Rams, and I think the Rams get shell-shocked in Carolina.
Yeah, this one had me going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I was flip-flopping for a while, but ultimately I checked the box of the Rams coming off the Super Bowl loss. I think they're going to have a lot to prove. I'm sure they'll be focused, and although I admit, man, that Carolina defense is something serious, I'm going to go with McVay until proven otherwise. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs traveling on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think we'll be unanimous on this one, right?
Not only that, but this is my lock of the week. I think this is interesting. Yes, I think it's two different styles. You've got, Jacksonville with their ground and pound of their defense and the high flying Kansas City. And I just look at it like, man, Kansas City weapons, you still don't know what you're going to get. And here's the X factor. It's Nick Foles going against Andy Reid. I think Andy Reid knows a thing or two about Nick Foles.
I think you said it better than I could. Oh, I'm with you, man. I got the Kansas City Chiefs over the Jacksonville Jaguars in week 1. And next, we will go to the big game there. Indianapolis at the LA Chargers. Who are you taking there?
I'm going to go... Who did I go? I got the LA Chargers. I think that they'll do just enough. That's going to be one of those games they do just enough to get by. The Eckler should be able to run the ball. And I think that Indy's kind of having a reel from the loss of luck.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking the Chargers in that one as well. Then we have Cincinnati at Seattle.
It should have been my lock of the week now that I think about it. I mean, playing Seattle is hard in Seattle no matter what. You still have Russell Wilson. You're going to get Clowney, that defense. I just don't think Cincinnati's very good. I think that's a blowout.
I think Cincinnati's talented, but much like Cleveland, they got to show me something before I start picking them. And Seattle is still Seattle at home. They're tough to beat there. I'm going Seattle as well. Then we got my lock of week 1. I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys over the New York Giants. The Giants are traveling to Arlington, Texas to take on the Cowboys. What's your pick on that game?
Yeah, I think Dallas, and I think it's going to be a closer game than people realize, but I think the way I've always seen Dallas and the Giants, I think the Dallas will have the ball at the hand and Zeke will run it in from like 10 yards out and they'll be up by 4 and that'll be the game. That's how I see it. I think Dallas wins, in a closer game than people think.
Fair enough. Detroit at Arizona.
Oh, I got Detroit. I think Arizona's horrible.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Matt Stafford, and just on that alone, I'm taking Detroit. And then we have your big game, the San Francisco 49ers going over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
This game has worried me a little bit because there are little mirror images, but I trust in our defensive line. The news that Nick Bosa will play, probably just play passing downs, but still that'll be enough. I think our defensive line roughs Jameis up. I think our running game keeps them off balance, and I trust in Jimmy Garoppolo to march down the field, get the touchdowns, and I trust our defensive line to just kind of wreak havoc for Jameis.
Yeah, I am going to agree. I'm going to go Frisco over Tampa Bay. The difference being I think the defense is more talented, and at this point, I'll even take Jimmy G over Jameis. Jameis just has been inconsistent up to this point. And then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers at the New England Patriots.
Belichick owns Tomlin, and he'll win a game or two. He's like, when I look at it,
they won last season.
Yes,
at the end of the year.
And every once in a while you'll get a little bit here and there, but at the end of the day, you know what? Belichick's got all this time to prepare. The Steelers are still working in their talent. They're still getting used to everything. You don't want to have to break in a new offense of players and build this stuff around with Belichick.
Yeah, I agree. I'm totally going New England on this one. And then we're going to go to the Monday Night Football doubleheader. The first game being Houston at New Orleans.
Give me New Orleans.
Whoa. Okay, upset of the week,
Yeah,
huh?
No.
Okay.
Give me New Orleans.
I'll
in
give
New
you 2
Orleans.
points if you take Houston.
Nah.
Yeah, I'm going New Orleans as well. Off that devastating loss, I think they're going to come back and bounce. And, I just think they're an overall better team than Houston. And then the second and final game for Monday night and week 1. Here's a good one, man. Denver at the Raider Nation up in Oakland. Who do you got?
Oh man, all I know is that's my favorite game to watch. That's like when you want to watch just You want to watch a fight because you just want to watch two dudes beat the living hell out of each other? I just want to watch the madness and the ridiculousness of that game. I will have my phone on. I will be checking AB's tweets because that's going to be hilarious. I got Denver. I think the Raiders will come out big. They'll score 14 points and then, the Denver will get adjusted and the Raiders are a mess. And I think Denver just takes advantage of it. They run the ball. They destroy Derek Carr's confidence and they put the first nail in the coffin of the Oakland Raiders.
See, I'm looking at my paper right now.
Yeah.
And there's a check mark over by the Oakland Raiders side.
Yeah.
But with all this recent activity going on.
This was made prior to that.
Yeah, this was made prior to all this AB drama. And now that AB isn't scheduled to play for week 1 and may never play for the Raiders. Like I said, I thought all this was going to be worth it for week. Like, look, AB, he burned his feet. He tried to fight his GM. But he's going to play week 1 and he's going to make a few plays and remind people why he's worth all this.
Yes.
Well, I don't think he's going to get that opportunity.
Nah.
So I'm going to switch this pick and I'm going to go with Denver. But I did believe with AB, Oakland was a better team, but it's just not happening.
For the record, I never had that issue with that. I picked Denver as soon as I saw that.
Yeah, so we'll be making these picks weekly here on the Say What You Like Sports Podcast, the NFL weekly edition of the podcast. We'll go over the records next week, and we'll be picking week 2 along with the hottest topics in the NFL. We'll review the big games, any big news that comes out of week 1. Tune back in for week 2. Same bat time, same bat channel here on the Say What You Like Sports Podcast.
We out.